Hello and welcome back to day 5 of our 12 days through the book of Numbers. Today we read Numbers chapters 13 to 15, and I want to talk to you about being a holy risk taker. Sounds exciting, doesn't it? Well, it is. It's a great life to live if we can find the place and that space in our hearts to do it. And of course, today we read about the refusal of the children of Israel to enter the promised land. Really one of the saddest accounts in Scripture. After everything they'd seen, everything God had shown them, all the mighty power that they'd witnessed, all of His faithfulness to provide for them, to protect them, to lead them, yet when their moment came, they stumbled and fell. Now I want to read to you from Numbers chapter 13, and this is the words of Moses as he speaks to the spies that have been appointed in order to go and spy out the land of Canaan. And before I read these words, we just need to deal with the complexity around whose idea was it to spy out the land of Canaan. Because if you only read the account in Numbers chapter 13, you will get the impression that it was entirely God's idea and God's initiative. Because Numbers 13, it begins with these words, "And the Lord Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, Send men to spy out the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the children of Israel." And then there's a bunch of instructions about who should be sent. But if you then go and read Deuteronomy 1:22, you're going to read this. Okay, this is now 40 years later, where Moses is recounting this event to the next generation before they go into the promised land, which they did successfully do 40 years later. And this is how our Moses remembers that event. He says this, "And every one of you came near to me and said, Let us send men before us, and let them search out the land for us, and bring back word to us of the way by which we should go, and the cities into which we shall come. And the plan pleased me well. So I took 12 of your men, one man from each tribe, and they departed and went up into the mountains." Okay, so now there we have a different picture. And when you piece it all together, here's the picture that you get. They're on the edge of the promised land. It's now time to go in. They sense that the time is drawing near, and so the people come to Moses because they're fearful and they want to know what's coming. They want to know what the future holds. It's a kind of mixture of curiosity and faithlessness and fear. So they come to Moses, they say, "Send spies. They must tell us what it's like there." Moses thinks, that's a good plan. And then God steps in and says, okay. And it's not going to be good for you to do this. In fact, it's only going to require more faith from you once you know what's going on there, how powerful those nations are in there, and how big the giants are there. In fact, it's better that you don't know. But this is going to be a test of your faith. If you want to go, okay, send men into the land. So that's my reading of it. That's how I think it unfolded. And so Moses then says these words. So this is Numbers 13, 17 to 20. These are his instructions to the spies. So then Moses sent them to spy out the land of Canaan and said to them, "Go up this way into the south and go up to the mountains and see what the land is like, whether the people who dwell in it are strong or weak, few or many, whether the land they dwell in is good or bad, whether the cities they inhabit are like camps or strongholds, whether the land is rich or poor, and whether there are forests there or not. Be of good courage, and bring some of the fruit of the land." Right, so here's my note this morning. Sometimes it is better not to know what is coming. The Christian life is impossible to live without faith, and that implies risk. If you knew every challenge that was ahead of you, you would need even more faith than it requires to move without knowing. You know, when I was a teenager, I remember we used to drive around the area in a go-kart. A mate of mine had a go-kart with a little petrol engine in it, and we used to fly down a certain hill. And what you do is you'd get your mate to stand at the end of the hill where there was a 90-degree bend in the road, and he would stand there and he would warn you if there was a car coming. And man, you just trusted your mate. You just drove down that thing as fast as you could, and you took that corner and you slid around it. And if there had been a car coming, they would have been in big trouble. And you hadn't seen it yourself. You just had to trust your mate. Now, that's a bit of an analogy of the Christian life. You don't know what's coming in the future. When you have a sense of something that God is leading you into, or some task that He's called you to, or some place that He's calling you to move to, or some endeavor that He's asking you or stirring you to begin or to launch, you don't know what's coming. I can tell you now that there's 1,000 challenges that you haven't even thought of that are coming. But you know what? God knows what's coming. He's already standing at the edge of the corner. He can see what's coming, and He's telling you, come! You know, the best thing to do is not to climb out the go-kart and go and walk down the road and have a look yourself. The best thing to do is to rev that engine up and hit it. Hit it, my man. So, knowing what's coming is not important. Walking with God is important. Committing your way to Him in prayer every day is important. Seeking the counsel of God is important. Praying for His protection for you and your family is important. Committing your business to Him, your decisions to Him, your family to Him. Committing your day to Him every day. It's part of praying. Give us this day our daily bread. Praying and seeking His counsel and guidance, that is what counts. And then, when you feel like the Lord is telling you to do something, or to start something, or to go somewhere, then without even knowing what's coming, good or bad, your testimony can be the testimony of Joshua, which we will finish with today. Chapter 14, verse 8. You trust God, and you go where He's telling you to go without knowing the future. You take risks in Him. This will be your testimony. If the Lord delights in us, then He will bring us into this land and give it to us, a land which flows with milk and honey. See you tomorrow.